This news article is about a simulated trade involving the Golden State Warriors trading Jonathan Kuminga to the Indiana Pacers. Key points. Warriors and Kuminga finally reached a 2-year deal, but he waived his no-trade clause and has a trade option in the second year despite the agreement. Warriors are expected to trade Kuminga. This season, Kuminga averaged 15.3 points last year and is an explosive athlete. With a team-friendly deal, Indiana Pacers don't expect to compete this season due to Tyrese Halliburton's Achilles injury. Pacers are preparing for playoff contention in 2026-27 proposed trade. Kuminga to Pacers for Bennedict Mathurin, Jarace Walker, and Ben Shepherd. Mathurin is set to be a starter this season, but entering restricted free agency, Walker has been buried on Pacers' bench. Shepherd is a role player who has improved. Warriors not expected to trade Kuminga before New Year. Pacers are taking a gap year approach and can experiment with lineups. I need to create an engaging YouTube script following the established format with emotional hook, engaging language, proper structure, all in English. Could the Golden State Warriors be about to pull off the most controversial trade of the decade? Imagine the scenario. Jonathan Kuminga, the explosive young forward who just signed a new deal with Golden State, getting shipped out before he even settles into his new contract. Sometimes in the NBA, signing a player is just the first step in a much bigger chess game, and what we're hearing about Kuminga's future might shock every Warriors fan to their core. Warriors Nation, we need to talk about what could be the most fascinating trade scenario floating around NBA circles. Because despite Jonathan Kuminga finally reaching a 2-year agreement with the organization, league insiders believe his days in blue and gold might be numbered. The Sporting News recently broke down a simulated trade that could send Kuminga to the Indiana Pacers in exchange for multiple young talents, and the implications are absolutely staggering. Let's break down exactly what happened with Kuminga's new contract, because the details reveal everything about Golden State's true intentions. Yes, they signed him to a 2-year deal, but here's a kicker that should have every fan paying attention. Kuminga waived his no-trade clause and has a trade option in the second year. That's not the contract structure of a player the organization views as untouchable. That's the contract of someone they're keeping their options open with. The writing appears to be on the wall, and it's written in bold letters. Despite averaging 15.3 points per game last season and showcasing the kind of explosive athleticism that makes scouts drool, Kuminga finds himself in a unique position of being both valuable enough to command trade interest and expendable enough that the Warriors are willing to listen to offers. Enter the Indiana Pacers, a franchise in a completely different phase of their competitive cycle. With Tyrese Halliburton sidelined due to an Achilles rupture, Indiana isn't expecting to compete this season. Instead, they're taking what you might call a gap year approach, preparing for a playoff push in 2026-27. That timeline makes Kuminga an absolutely perfect fit for their organizational plans. The proposed trade that's been making waves involves the Warriors sending Kuminga to Indiana in exchange for a trio of young talents: Bennedict Mathurin, Jarace Walker, and Ben Shepherd. On paper, this looks like Golden State trading one promising player for 3, but the reality is much more complex and potentially brilliant from a roster construction standpoint. Let's examine what the Warriors will be getting in return. Bennedict Mathurin is set to assume a starting role this season and has shown flashes of becoming a legitimate NBA scorer. However, he's entering restricted free agency this summer, which creates both opportunity and uncertainty for Indiana. If the Pacers don't see him as a long-term fit alongside Halliburton, moving him now for a player like Kuminga, who fits their timeline perfectly, makes strategic sense. Jarace Walker represents the classic case of a talented young player who hasn't gotten his opportunity yet. He's been buried on Indiana's bench, but that doesn't necessarily reflect his potential or ability. Sometimes young players just need the right situation and coaching to unlock their capabilities, and the Warriors have proven expertise in player development. Ben Shepherd completes the package as a role player who has shown significant improvement over recent seasons. While he might not be a star-level talent, he represents a kind of steady, reliable contributor that championship teams need in their rotation. From Indiana's perspective, this trade makes tremendous sense given their current situation and future plans. A lineup featuring Halliburton, Kuminga, Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nembhard, and a center like Jay Huff would give him size, athleticism, and versatility on both ends of floor. Adding Obi Toppin and Aaron Nesmith coming off the bench creates depth and maintains a fast-paced style that suits Halliburton's skill set perfectly. The timeline aspect cannot be overstated. The Pacers are essentially writing off the season due to Halliburton's injury, which gives them the luxury of making moves focused on 2026 to 27 and beyond. Kuminga fits that window perfectly, giving them time to integrate him into their system and develop chemistry with their core players. For the Warriors, this potential trade addresses several organizational needs simultaneously. They'd be adding depth to their young core while acquiring multiple players who would contribute immediately. In a conference as competitive as the West, having 3 rotation-worthy players instead of 1 star potential player might provide better overall value. The financial implications also favor this type of move. Rather than investing heavily in one player's development and hoping he reaches a ceiling, the Warriors will be spreading that investment across multiple players with different skill sets and developmental trajectories. Dean Simon's analysis of this trade highlights something crucial. The Warriors probably won't make any move involving Kuminga before the new year. This gives both organizations time to evaluate their current situations, see how players develop, and make more informed decisions about long-term roster construction. The psychological aspect of this potential trade is particularly interesting. Kuminga has been the subject of trade rumors throughout his time with the Warriors, which can't be easy for a young player trying to establish himself. Moving to Indiana would give him a fresh start with an organization that specifically targeted him and believes in his potential as a cornerstone piece. From a basketball development standpoint, Kuminga might actually thrive in Indiana's system. Playing alongside a creative point guard like Halliburton could unlock aspects of his game that haven't been fully utilized in Golden State's more complex offensive system. Sometimes talented players just need the right situation to flourish. The Warriors' willingness to even consider this type of trade demonstrates their commitment to maintaining competitive flexibility. They understand that in today's NBA, roster construction is an ongoing process that requires constant evaluation and adjustment. Trading one talented player for multiple assets gives them more options for future moves. Looking at the broader Western Conference landscape, the Warriors face the reality that standing still is equivalent to moving backward. Teams like Denver, Phoenix, and others are constantly improving their rosters, and Golden State needs to match that aggression to remain competitive. The Indiana situation is unique because they're not a Western Conference rival, which makes trading Kuminga they're more palatable from a competitive standpoint. The Warriors wouldn't have to worry about facing him multiple times per season or helping a direct playoff competitor. The development potential for both organizations makes this trade intriguing beyond just the immediate basketball fit. Indiana gets a young player with tremendous upside who fits their timeline, while Golden State gets multiple players who could contribute in different ways while maintaining roster flexibility. What makes this scenario particularly compelling is how it represents different organizational philosophies. The Warriors are trying to maximize their remaining championship window with their current core, while the Pacers are building for sustained success in the coming years. If this trade materializes, it could represent a win-win situation where both organizations get exactly what they need at this point in their respective competitive cycles. Sometimes the best trades aren't about who wins or loses, but about whether both teams get better suited for their particular goals and timelines. What do you think, basketball fans? Would this trade make sense for both organizations, or should the Warriors hold on to Kuminga's potential? Share your thoughts in the comments below and hit that like button. If you believe sometimes trading one star for multiple contributors is the smartest roster construction strategy. The NBA trade season is heating up, and moves like this could reshape multiple franchises for years to come.